All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We spend so much time obsessing over complex success strategies, but today, we're stripping it all back. We're looking at something profoundly simple, yet literally one of the hardest things to actually execute. We're going to explore the incredible story of Lucas. This is a guy who started with absolutely nothing, but tired hands and a silent dream. And we're going to see exactly how he leveraged the sheer power of consistency to completely rewrite his reality.
Now, this idea right here, it hits the nail on the head. It completely exposes why we so often feel stuck in a rut. We all want a better life, right? But we don't necessarily want better habits. It's like we all want the six-pack, but we dodge the gym like the plague. Think about it. Most of us will sign up for a gym membership on January 1st and completely abandon it by January 14th. We desperately want success, but we kind of just vanish the second discipline gets a little boring. So let's break down how bridging that massive gap between wanting and doing actually changes everything.
So let's start with phase one, the weak routine trap, or a life on pause.
Picture this, a bustling train station in a beautiful coastal city in Portugal. During the day, it is just alive. You've got businessmen sprinting with their coffees, tourists lugging heavy bags, students laughing. It's the absolute picture of progress. But wait until after midnight. That exact same space transforms into something totally different. It becomes quiet, cold, and honestly, incredibly lonely. And that was the world 29-year-old Lucas inhabited. His daily reality was picking up discarded bottles and food wrappers, scrubbing dirty floors, all while the rest of the world was fast asleep.
It is so crucial we understand his starting point here. Lucas wasn't just physically exhausted. The guy felt entirely invisible. His uniform was faded, his shoes were falling apart, and his hands were just rough and cracked from harsh cleaning chemicals. But the mental toll was way worse than the physical one. People would literally make jokes as they walked past him. Wealthy travelers would drop trash right at his feet without even a flinch of an apology. And he never answered back. He just kept his eyes down and kept mopping. But on the inside, he was absolutely breaking.
Which brings us to part two, the catalyst. We're talking about the mentor and the rule.
So everything shifts for him on this one miserable, rainy winter night. Lucas is working near the small independent bookstore inside the station, and he sees the owner, Elena, she's nearly 70 years old, struggling with this massive box of books. So he rushes over to help. When she suggests he should read more, he just kind of laughs it off, right? He tells her he's barely surviving, that books are a luxury for people with actual free time. But Elena hits back with this profound counter-argument. She tells him that books for people who want their mind to escape before their life does. Just think about that. She completely reframed how he viewed his own mind.
What happens next is the real game changer. Elena pulls this old blue-covered book with yellowing pages off the shelf and just hands it to him. Lucas immediately backs away, saying he can't afford it. But Elena isn't asking for cash. She demands a totally different kind of payment. She asks for consistency. Her price, just one honest, laser-focused hour of reading every single day. Not a 3-hour marathon, not reading the whole thing over the weekend. Just one single hour.
So Lucas takes the book home. He is totally exhausted. His back is aching. His eyes are literally burning from lack of sleep. But before he lets himself crash, he opens it up. And the very first sentence he reads hits him like a freight train. A poor routine can destroy a rich dream. Wow. For years, he'd been blaming the universe, right? Blaming his lack of money, other people, bad luck. But staring at that sentence, he had to ask himself a really painful question. What was he actually doing every single day to change his future? And the honest answer was absolutely nothing. He just worked, slept, silently complained, worried, and repeated the whole miserable cycle.
Moving into section 3, the crucible of consistency. This is where we get into doing the work when it's really hard.
So how do you actually execute this when you're that tired? Instead of waiting around for some sudden miracle, Lucas broke his quiet hour down into these highly tactical, seriously unglamorous micro-steps. Let me be clear, this was not some flashy movie montage. It was just hard. His English was really weak. He read incredibly slowly, sometimes having to reread the exact same paragraph over and over. Some nights he was so wiped out the book nearly dropped from his hands. But he didn't stop. He used this beat-up old phone to listen to English audio. He scribbled new words into a tiny notebook, and he'd whisper practice speaking in his room when nobody was around.
And you know what happens next, right? The moment you actually try to improve yourself, your consistency just acts like a magnet for criticism. His coworkers totally laughed at him. They mocked his little notebook, joking that he thought he was some hotshot businessman, and reminded him that reading wasn't going to magically mop the floors or pay his rent. This right here, this is the exact moment where 99% of us would quietly shove the book under the bed just to fit back in.
But Lucas didn't budge. He stayed completely silent in the face of all those insults. Why? Because he had figured out this incredibly fundamental truth about human nature. He realized that their mocking had absolutely nothing to do with him. It was completely a reflection of their own insecurities about all the time they were wasting. So he just put his head down and kept fiercely protecting his hour.
This brings us to Section 4, the compound effect. Let's track how this transformation actually played out. Now, I want you to notice something really important here. The very first rewards he got from all this discipline, they had absolutely nothing to do with money or a fancy new job title. Before his bank account ever changed, his mind changed. He stopped reacting with that bitter anger. He started carrying himself with more respect. He learned real emotional regulation and even started structuring his days better and saving tiny amounts of cash. The big takeaway here is that the first signs of success are almost always internal. The external world, it just hasn't caught up to you yet.
And then, eventually, his daily practice collided with opportunity. A Canadian tourist was losing her mind at the station one day, completely panicking because she lost her wallet and her train was boarding. Lucas stepped right in, and because he'd been consistently practicing his English in that tiny room, he was able to calmly reassure her. He looked right at her and clearly said, "Please don't worry, we will check the waiting area first." 10 minutes later, he found it, tucked under a bench. The woman was so grateful and specifically complimented him on how good his English was. Guys, nobody had ever spoken to him like that before. That one compliment gave him way more fuel than a massive tip ever could.
When you look at this timeline, you've got to remember Elena's early advice. A train doesn't cross the entire country in one giant magical leap. It moves station by station. And that is exactly what Lucas did. By the end of year 1, with Elena still in his corner, he used his free afternoons to start this little tourist service, helping people map out routes and doing basic translation. He was smart too. He didn't just recklessly quit his cleaning job. He kept his 1-hour habit going, diving into business and communication. Fast forward to year 2, he officially opens up this clean, super friendly coffee and info kiosk right outside the station, literally serving the exact same crowds he used to clean up after. And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, changing your destiny and passing the torch. So now Lucas is running this successful kiosk, and his journey comes full circle in the most beautiful way. One evening, he notices this young cleaner named Marco sitting all alone. And Marco looks just as exhausted, just as defeated as Lucas did all those years ago. Marco confesses he feels totally stuck in life. So what does Lucas do? He walks over to his kiosk, grabs that exact same old blue book with the yellowing pages, and he hands it to Marco. He passes on the exact same wisdom Elena gave him. Start tired, start small, start today. He tells them that people will easily blow hours complaining about their lives or doom scrolling on their phones, but they won't dedicate one single focused hour to their own future.
When Marco looks at him, totally skeptical, and asks if 1 hour can really change a life, Lucas drops this truth bomb. He explains that the habit itself doesn't magically fix all your problems in 24 hours. What the habit does is transform your identity. It's wild, but true. Once you actually become a new person, a person who is disciplined, a person who keeps their promises to themselves, that new identity goes to work and transforms your circumstances for you.
So if there's one massive takeaway from this entire explainer, it's this. Your destiny is not rewritten by some grand emotional New Year's resolution. It is built in the trenches. It is built in those tiny, quiet promises you keep to yourself when absolutely nobody is clapping for you. It's built on a random Tuesday when you push through the sheer exhaustion, when you sound ridiculous trying to practice a new skill, and when you consciously choose the pain of discipline over the incredible comfort of an easy excuse. I want to wrap this up by leaving you with the exact same question Lucas asked Marco back at that train station. Take a hard, deeply honest look at your own routine tonight. Real success doesn't always kick off with a huge bank account or the perfect lucky break. Sometimes it just starts with a stubborn refusal to stay where you are. So ask yourself right now, are you willing to carve out your one quiet hour?